Broadcast equipment failure downstairs.
We're not on TV?
No.
Yeah, I put a special TV tie on.
Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Mayor and Board of Trustees for the Village of Burr Ridge. Tonight's December 11th, 2017. Today, we are pleased to have Jacob Kidwell of Boy Scout Troop 69 lead us in the pledge. Jacob is in Boy Scout Troop 69 out of Burr Ridge and is working on his communication merit badge. He needs to complete requirement number 5, which is the following. Attend a public meeting where several points of view are given on a single issue. Practice active listening skills and take careful notes of each point of view. Prepare an objective report that includes all points of view that were expressed and share that with your counselor. Jacob, come up and lead us in the pledge.
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Trustee Francis.
Here.
Trustee Model.
Here.
Trustee Pavesa.
Here.
Trustee Mattel. Here. Trustee Snyder. Trustee Scialpa.
Here.
Mayor Straub.
Okay. Any resident comments? Next will be the consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless the board member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda. Minutes. A, approval of regular board meeting of November 27th, 2017. B, receive and file draft plan commission meeting of December 4th, 2017. Ordinances. 6C, approval of an ordinance amending Article 7 of the Burr Ridge Building Ordinance to exempt temporary sales and construction trailers from automatic fire sprinkler requirements. D, approval of an ordinance denying a variation as per the Burr Ridge sign ordinance for a second ground sign, S10 2017, 16W361 South Frontage Road, Ballistus. E, approval of an ordinance rezoning properties from R2 Single Family Resident District to the R2B Single Family Residential District pursuant to the Village of Burr Ridge Zoning Ordinance Z 15 2017, 15W110 83rd Street and 8200 County Line Road, Alcuin. No resolutions. Considerations. 8D, approval of request from the Burr Ridge Willowbrook Chamber of Commerce for contribution to the 2018 Chamber Directory. E, approval of a request for a raffle license for Pleasantdale PTO and hosting facility license for Crown Plaza Chicago Southwest at Burr Ridge Hotel for the event on March 10th, 2018. F, approval of recommendation to ratify emergency purchase of services for the County Line Road storm sewer repair at Deer Path Trail. G, approval of vendor list in the amount of $131,343.08 for all funds, plus $257,723.60 for payroll, for a grand total of $389,066.68, which includes no special expenditures. So at this time, I would like motion to approve minutes 5A-B, ordinances 6C, D, E, considerations A, D, E, F, G.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Trustee Mato?
Yes.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Mattel?
Yes.
Trustee Paveza?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
5-0.
Motion passed. At this time, I'd like to open up the public hearing for the 2017 tax levy.
This is a public hearing to consider the approval of the 2017 tax levy. The total request for the 2017 levy is $219,360, which represents an increase of $70,076 or 6.1% over 2016. Like all non-home rule communities in Cook and the Collier counties, Burr Ridge is subject to the Illinois state-imposed annual tax cap levy of 5% of the cost of living, whichever is lower, plus property taxes from new growth, which includes annexations and new construction in the village. The cost of living increase is based on the Consumer Price Index, which this year has been set at 2.1%. The available tax levy resulting from new growth will be determined by the township assessors, but not until the first quarter of 2018. Since the state requirement is that we set our levy in December, we have to guess at what that levy might be. If we guess too low, we don't get our full levy. If we guess too high, we only get what we request. So the estimate is always done at a higher than expected level. In this case, we're projecting new growth at 4%, whereas in reality it'll probably be in the 2 to 3% range. The tax levy ordinance must be adopted and filed with the counties no later than the last Tuesday in December. Total levy is divided into 3 separate levies. First, we determine the actuarial police pension levy, which is a legally required employer contribution, and that's determined by an independent actuarial valuation in April of 2017. Once the police pension is required, whatever is left over is allocated between the corporate levy and the police protection levy. And that goes to administrative functions of the police department. The corporate levy and the police protection levy represent about 5.4% of the total general fund revenues for the village of Burr Ridge. As always, staff likes to remind the board, as the board well knows, but more importantly remind the taxpayers that the Burr Ridge portion of your property tax is less than 2% of a typical property tax bill. The remaining 98% plus is going to other local taxing districts, including the school districts, fire districts, parks districts, county, etc. So in conclusion, on tonight's agenda is the ordinance approving the 2017 tax levy in a total amount of $1,219,360. I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding the tax levy. Finance Director Jerry Sapp is also here to answer any questions that may be presented.
Any questions? Anybody in the audience? Yes.
My name is Tom White. I'm a member of the Police Pension Fund. At the last Village of Burr Ridge meeting, the following statement was made by the mayor. We need major pension reform in the state. Fact is, according to the courts, major pension reform took place in 2011, and the state Supreme Court unanimously agreed that the benefits promised to our Tier 1 public employees could not be diminished or impaired. I provided a summary of the Tier 2 benefits that officers hired since 2012 are entitled. Currently, Tier 2 officers make the same police pension contribution as Tier 1 officers, about 9.5%, and their benefits dwarf in comparison. There is no more room for meaningful pension reform in Illinois. Thus, it is disingenuous in my mind to suggest that the answer regarding police pension funding lies with the legislature, and thus that the growing deficit can be ignored. As most of you know, the state public pension plans are required to file an Illinois Department of Insurance annual public pension report. The Pension Division of the Illinois Department of Insurance is charged with overseeing and reporting with regard to Illinois state public pension funds. They have recently published their 2012 biennial report, which includes a summary of the 2016 Illinois Department of Insurance individual fund reporting and fund-by-fund summary data. It should be noted, however, that the data submitted by the various funds does not require usage of any certain standards. That is, while one fund is based on the state minimum valuation method, another village's report is based upon actuarial standards. Additionally, the actuarial assumptions vary widely. That is, one fund might be using 7.5 as their investment return discount assumption, while others are using 6.5 or 6%. Same goes for mortality tables, rates of retirement, disability benefits, etc. Thus, the Illinois Department of Insurance realizes that the data requires more examination. They perform an analysis of the methods used and the assumptions in order to truly understand the state of Illinois public pensions. The latest report, GRS Experience Report, was conducted by the actuarial firm of Gabriel, Roeder, and Smith & Company. To access both reports, I've given you the link. The 2017 biannual report indicates that the average funded ratio reported was 57%, with a very wide range of funded ratios. The experience report indicated that the investment assumption reported for funds such as our police pension fund average was about 6.75%, while we reported and continue to use 7%. The higher the percentage we use, the less the village contribution, the lower what the liabilities are considered to be. They in fact reviewed many other actuarial assumptions that are listed there, but most significant of these is the investment return assumption, which is generally used as the discount assumption in determining the present value of liabilities. In summary, the GRS Experience Report stated that the funds, the size of ours, the investment return assumption should be 6.5%. They indicated on average the municipal funding that was being provided by the various villages was 21% lower than what's actually needed on an actuarial basis. This implies that the village's $750,000 police pension contribution probably needs to be in the area of $900,000. Basically, my perusal of the document led me to believe that the GRS findings confirmed that the results provided by B&K, that is the village's auditors, in a recent audit that showed 55.7% funded and a $12.4 million deficit was in fact accurate. And I provide for you on the back, you can kind of see what they've done to the Tier 1 versus Tier 2 employees. In other words, what they've done is things like they've made it they contribute the same amount, but in fact, the maximum that they can contribute on has been lowered, so the benefits will be less. They've also have a final average salary computation that is not the last year's salary, but in fact is 8 years worth of salary, which obviously brings the average salary down. They've also computed that the cost of living adjustment should go from a 3% compounded for the Tier 1 officers that retire to 3% or 1/2 non-compounded, the lesser of those two. And so you can see, looking down the line all the way along, they basically, except for the formula still being 2.5% per year, they basically gutted, if you will, the decent benefits that our officers have today. So in other words, the Tier 2 people, which would be all officers that were hired after December 31st, 2010, would come under the Tier 2. So what I'm saying to you is that they have provided some reform, if you will. But the liabilities that we have are still the liabilities. And when in fact you have a tax levy that's only allowing you to go up the CPI 2.1%, and you've got an unfunded liability that is basically increasing twofold. One is whatever's unfunded, you're expected to put in, or there's expected someone to put in, the 6.5% or 7% that the fund is not earning because it doesn't have that money. So that's one part of it. Second part of it is that you're not even, the standard that you're using, the state minimum, is not actuarially sound. And you've been shown that before. Got one more. I agree that the village finances are not in deep distress. If I make it seem like that, I stand corrected. What I tried to get this board to do is to realize that the current policy of funding at the state minimum, if it does not change in the foreseeable future, village finances will be in deep distress. Village policy for the past 15 years, included from 2002 to 2010, contributions that on average were less than the minimum funding. And since that time, funding at the further discounted new state minimum level. The policy is the prelude to the deep distress that village finances will be in within 10 to 12 years. The entire tax levy will be insufficient to cover the police pension contribution. Now when the village finances are not in deep distress is when to address the issue rather than when it's too late. I am reminded of Winston Churchill's quote, "Want of foresight, unwillingness to act when action could be simple and effective, lack of clear thinking, confusion of counsel until the emergency comes, until self-preservation strikes its jarring gong. These are the features which constitute the endless repetition of history." We are on a fast train to repeat the history of the state. The fact is, the crux of Illinois' financial difficulties is years of underfunding its large state pension fund systems, funding of which continues to overwhelm the state budget. The village continues to ignore, and dare I say, hide the data. What is needed is truthful, timely, and transparent government financial data. There is such data in the annual report and the village's actuaries' recommended actuarial valuation, yet these consultants are never questioned by the board regarding their pension liability findings, and the village administration is complicit in this regard. The village's own 5-year financial plan, although it projects short-term police pension expenses and availability of assets, is silent with regard to the growing pension funding deficit. Imagine an insurance company that highlights its income and assets and is silent regarding its liabilities. As has been pointed out on numerous occasions by village consultants and the Village Police Pension Board, the state minimum pension funding plan is a plan doomed to failure. The state minimum funding required to achieve the 90% funded goal by 2040 will break the village budget prior to the end of the next decade. Again, as Churchill quoted, "However beautiful the strategy, you should occasionally look at the results." As it now stands, a Burr Ridge family of 4 share of the combined village of Burr Ridge and Pleasant View Fire District pension deficit now stands at approximately $10,000. It's all based on the Cook County Treasurer's Office website. And it's growing year by year. The administration of this board continues to ignore the results of a broken fiscal strategy. Thank you.
Is anybody else?
Mr. White, 2 years ago I heard you up here, and you were absolutely right when the board got rid of you. You're still right. I had my accounting firm look at your numbers 2 years ago, and they said you were right. And everything you said was absolutely correct. You said it very quickly. Most people probably didn't consume what you said because you said it so quickly. Where's Mickey? Where's the mayor?
He had an emergency.
Did he? Well, I like Mickey. I helped sign some of his things for his next thing that he's trying to do in this state. But I'm more concerned about this little community called Burr Ridge. And I'm really upset about a lot of things. And I'm very despondent about what's going on here. We have major problems.
Now, we're on the public hearing for the tax levy.
Well, don't.
That's what, if you're commenting on that, fine. Anything else, do it later.
All right, Albert. Okay. Mr. Wright, you're absolutely right in what you've done. And on the tax levels, you're absolutely right. And you continue to ignore a problem, it only gets bigger. It's called testering. Thank you. Oh, Bidner, 2 Hidden Lake Drive, Burridge, lived here for 45 years.
Jerry, do you have anything to say on this? When it comes to the tax levy and when it comes to the pension obligation, the board, when we do our budget, really look at it. And there are different people that do the actuarials. And we feel that we provide in the pension fund what the state requires. And at this time, we're still in the upper third of the municipalities when it comes to funding the pension obligations. So we are not in the bottom, we're still in the upper third of municipalities. And we plan on keeping that, and we plan on doing what the state asks us to do. Is there anything else on the tax levy? Could I, yes?
Just a comment. This spring, we're going to have some tough decisions to make, as we all know. Decisions about the road program, decisions about pension funding, decisions about the pathway fund that's out of money. Tough choices to make, and I would hate to see the police pension fund suffer because of that, those choices. So, thank you.
Could I have a motion to close the public hearing on the 2017 tax levy?
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Martell?
Yes.
Trustee Paveza?
Yes.
Trustee Model?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
5-0.
5-0. The public hearing on the tax levy is closed. At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing up for the amendment to Falling Water First Edition Annexation Agreement.
Thank you, Trustee Paveza. In 2008, the village entered into an agreement with the property owner on Cascade Circle for development of a subdivision referred to as the Falling Water First Edition. This is a small property that fronts on Cascade Circle, adjacent to Falling Water subdivision. The 2008 agreement called for 6 new lots to be created and added to the Falling Water subdivision, and the 6 new lots included underground detention. Since that time, the owner has decided to reduce it to 5 lots with surface detention in a more traditional subdivision manner. In order to do that, they need to amend the annexation agreement, the 2008 agreement, to reference this 5-lot plan versus the previously approved 6-lot plan. The Falling Water Homeowners Association has been actively involved in this subdivision review process, and the subdivision will be added to the Falling Water Homeowners Association upon completion. I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding this amendment.
Yes. Is there anyone in the audience or anybody have any comments on the Falling Water Annexation Agreement? Well, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to, yes.
Comment, please.
Yes.
In 2008, I was not a big fan of the underground detention storage, but it seemed to work out for the developer to get his 6 lots. The ponds that are at Falling Water were not sized to accommodate these 6 additional lots. So I'm glad to see they're moving in this direction with the above-ground storage, traditional stormwater management techniques that are used throughout the village. So I'm pleased with this, and I would support it.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing on the Falling Water Annexation Agreement.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Trustee Model?
Yes.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Martell?
Yes.
Trustee Paveza?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
5-0.
5-0, meeting's closed. Okay, under ordinances, at this time, we will take on the consideration of an ordinance levying taxes for all corporate purposes for the village of Burr Ridge, DuPage, and Cook County, Illinois, for the fiscal year commencing on May 1st, 2018, and ending April 30th, 2019.
This is the ordinance approving the tax levy as per the public hearing held this evening. Again, I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding this ordinance or the tax levy.
Is there any questions in the audience regarding the levying of taxes on the board? Could I have a motion to approve the ordinance?
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. Any comments? Roll call.
Trustee Skiappa.
Yes.
Trustee Francis.
Yes.
Trustee Model.
Yes.
Trustee Pavesa.
Yes.
Trustee Matal.
Yes.
5-0.
5-0, motion passes. Under ordinances, 6B, consideration of an ordinance authorizing an amendment to the annexation agreement of Falling Waters First Edition. Anybody with comments in the audience? On the board? Could I have a motion to approve the ordinance?
So move.
Second?
Motion and second. Any comments? Roll call.
Trustee Matal.
Yes.
Trustee Model.
Yes.
Trustee Francis.
Yes.
Trustee Pavesa.
Yes.
Trustee Skiappa.
Yes.
5-0.
Okay, 5-0, motion passes. Okay, no resolutions, but under considerations. Consideration of request for Board of Trustees Committee regarding local educational support.
Thank you. This is a recommendation, a request from Trustee Matal suggesting that the board form a committee regarding local education support, specifically to provide a forum for residents to comment and express their concerns about our local schools, and also to create a conduit to the local school districts. Typically, I should say, our municipal code allows the village board to establish a standing or ad hoc committee for whatever purpose they deem relevant. Typically, committees are formed, such board committees are formed with one or two trustees on the board, with a trustee chairing the committee, and then configured with residents or local community stakeholders as determined appropriate. Most committees are 7 people. There's no defined number. Usually an odd number is chosen for voting purposes. But I'd be happy to, we've got this on the agenda for your consideration.
So how do you envision this committee?
So just like we have an economic development committee or a planning commission to help the village grow as in the economic side, I think it's important for us to have a education support committee or a school committee because schools are one of the biggest attractions for residents. People pick and choose the community they live in based on schools. So I think it would be nice to have a committee formed by residents where they can, they have a forum where they can discuss their concerns. They can also come up with solutions. They can reach out to the school boards. What I envision is a committee with, as Doug said, the 6 to 7 members. We would try to have representation from all the feeder schools in the Burr Ridge area, Pleasantdale, Gower, Hinsdale, and then Annam Jeans, so that all the districts are, all the school districts are represented in this committee, and we can come up with solutions, maybe learn from each other, and have a forum where the residents can air out their concerns, because that's the number one thing people reach out to me with is, we need to do something about the schools. Well, it would be important to involve the residents in this and help them feel that they control the education as well, to a certain extent.
Any comments? Yes, Zach.
Yeah, I'm very pleased to hear your idea, Trustee Mattal. I think, as we heard earlier this year, there's a lot of residents who do have concerns about their school, and while sure they can go to the school board and they can go to those meetings, perhaps they're not always heard the way they'd like to be heard, and also, school boards and school districts encompass many different towns. Burr Ridge has its own unique set of needs, its residents, and again, I think they haven't always been able to be heard, and they haven't always been able to put the Burr Ridge spin on their issues to these school boards. And I'd love to see that they have a chance to talk about it, to learn solutions, to make suggestions to the school boards, and to do it in a more formal manner than just sending emails and things like that to the board. I think, some staff support could maybe help them organize their ideas and maybe help them, present them in a better manner to the school board. It certainly can't hurt, and I don't see that this is going to take a lot of money at all, if any money at all, from the village. So I think it can't hurt, and putting more ideas on the table and more options out there is only a good thing. So thank you for bringing this idea forward.
Any other comments? Yes.
A couple of questions. So would this subcommittee or committee or subcommittee, whatever, would it be a direct conduit to the school boards, or would they go through the village board, like all of our other committees do? How do you envision that?
I think the second, kind of just like, this would be set up just like the Planning Commission, Economic Development Committee. No, they would not directly...
Okay. All right. And we are short volunteers on some other committees in the village. On the Plan Commission, we're short a commission member. Stormwater Committee, we're short a commission member. Pathway Commission, at least 2, maybe 3. I lost count. Boy, if we can get community involvement, that would be great in this committee. But I would also like to see an effort put forth to fill these other vacancies on these other boards, because these other commissions and committees are equally important as well. I don't think the focus has been there to fill those. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good idea, and it'd be just an opportunity for the residents to collaborate and find new ideas and maybe hear each other out and learn from maybe some of the residents in some other school districts and how some of the best practices have been.
Yes.
I would just like to add on to Trustee Francise's comment. That's an important comment that you made about some of the vacancies, and hopefully we can get some new people interested in serving on the government committee and maybe recruit them for some of the other committees in the future. But I think it's a great opportunity. I know there is a lot of enthusiasm to serve on this committee from some of the residents, so I think your point is a good one there.
Well, from what I've known, when you're dealing with parents of children, they're the ones that usually like to get involved, so I don't feel like once they hear about it, that it's going to be a problem in getting people onto this committee. Trustee Mattal, you'll be on the committee?
I think so, yeah.
And I think...
I plan to, yes. Yes.
That...
I think I'm the second volunteer for the committee, yes.
Yes,
And
yes.
if we have a third volunteer, we'll accept them, but, and also we'll put out a comment that we are forming this committee and we're looking for people to help on the committee to further our ability to try to work with the different school boards to see if the village in any way can help. Now, we've got to remember, they're an independent board. We only serve in the capacity of helpfulness.
Right. I just wanted to add one more. And hopefully this will help all the Burr Ridge residents come together, because we are kind of divided based on the school districts. So it would give them an opportunity to share their experiences and, troubleshoot their problems together.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, my comment was going to be, I assume you probably looked into this just to make sure that you would be checking minimally with the school superintendents from the various districts is relative to how you can best help and best provide input from the community.
Right.
Okay, Doug, then you
I
work
would-
in.
I'll work with trustee Batal and trustee Model and come up with some appointments and the mayor. And at an upcoming agenda, then we would have a list of appointments to be made, and the court committee would then be formally.
And just like we're talking about it, if anybody wants to be on the committee, please call the village hall, and we'll be glad to work with you and have your input on the committee.
Or any of the committees, right?
Okay.
Any other yes?
I move to form the committee regarding the local educational support. A motion.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
Roll call.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Model?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes?
Trustee Bebeza?
Yes.
Trustee Matal?
Yes.
5-0.
5-0, motion passes, so we'll set up and work to form the committee and with residents and start working on this.
Thank you.
Under consideration, B, discussion and review of the 2017 to 2019 strategic goals.
Yes, this is simply on the agenda as an opportunity to ask you to complete your prioritization of the strategic goals that were discussed. I put in front of each of your chairs a two-sided piece of paper with the goals listed, different goals listed on each side. I took the liberty of dividing the goals, the 23 goals, I think it was, that the board had agreed to. I took the liberty of dividing that into two categories. The first category, and you'll see I don't have any prioritization listed, and those are goals that I believe we're already working on or we would be working on no matter what, and that they don't necessarily need prioritization because they don't require a lot of resources, or the resources that are required are already engaged or in process. Certainly, if you have any comments on any of those are, as always, welcome. The second page, though, are the more in-depth goals where prioritization may become a factor as we get into them, and we have to decide where to spend time or resources. These are goals where they may require a different allotment of time or money, or may require much more in-depth work than the other goals that I described. So I would ask that before you leave tonight, if you could just take that page, or if you'd rather take more time with it, try to make sure I get that by the end of the week, if not tonight. And just circle one on each of the goals listed, high, medium, or low priority. We'll accumulate those and put together a final report. The final report will include these goals. It will include the prioritization that I received from you. Finally, we'll also include some implementation strategies so that, at least from the beginning, we kind of have an idea of what our approach to each goal will be. And we will also include in that plan a plan for reporting on progress, probably a quarterly report that gets put on the board agenda just to update you on progress.
Does anybody have any questions on Doug's sheet? Yes.
Yes, thank you. Doug, so on the priority, the high, medium, low, you want us, there's 13 things on this list. You want us just to pick 3 of them and give them high, medium, low, or would you like us to do 1 through 13? I mean,
I would just do, well,
I did 1 through 13. 1 through 13, sorry.
rank them 1 through 13.
No, I filled in a box, I filled in a box here. Circled one of the categories for all 13 items, so I either picked high, medium, or low for all 13 items.
Yeah.
Each one had a score, each one had a ranking.
Right, I was just thinking that everybody would, on each one, would tell me whether it's a high priority for you, a medium, or a low
I
priority.
only do that because that's all we've done in the past.
So choose high, medium, and low for each one of these. If I wanted some extra credit, could I put a 1 through 13 on these?
Sure.
And tell you what I think is the most
Absolutely.
important? Okay.
Have my sheet back. I'm
You can have your seat
I'm kidding.
I think you summarized it very good, and just,
Yeah, did a
just
good job.
put your emphasis on what you feel are high, medium, or low priority in the coming 2 years. And please return it by the end of the week.
Thank you for doing that, Doug.
Any questions on this?
I thought he said the end of the meeting.
Pardon?
Preferably the end of the meeting, but if you need more time, the end of the week.
Yeah.
It's always easier to catch you right here when I can see you, so.
Okay. Under considerations 8C, acknowledgement of withdrawal of petition for rezoning property from the R2A district to the R3 district, Z16 2017 15W 110 87th Street, Provenco.
Yes, this is only on the agenda kind of to complete the paper trail so that our records show that it was withdrawn. The Plan Commission held a public hearing last Monday, and the consideration was for approximately 10-acre property that's zoned R2A, and the petitioner wants to do an R3 subdivision of the property. The Plan Commission was unanimous in its recommendation to deny the R3 zoning. The petitioner met with staff after the public hearing, indicated that they felt that they could modify the plan under the R3 district zoning to satisfy concerns. We informed the petitioner that zoning can only be tied to a site plan if it's a planned unit development. This property isn't large enough for a planned unit development, but they said they would like to take another shot at it, and they intend to come back with a new petition requesting a planned unit development, which would also include a variation or an amendment to allow a R2A or R3 PUD on 10 acres rather than the currently required 40 acres. So anyway, this is just here. There's no action to be taken. I certainly can answer any questions that you may have about it, but it has been withdrawn.
Any questions? Yes,
Comments?
comment?
Trustee Schiappa and myself attended the Plan Commission hearing and listened closely to what the residents had to say. And they were all unanimous in their speaking on how they felt that they moved here to the village for large open space, large lots, clear views, open space, but they couldn't get in other villages. They couldn't get that in Hinsdale, Western Springs, LaGrange, Plainfield, Westmont, the surrounding communities. They can only get it here in Burbridge, and that's why they moved here. And they want to preserve that. They want those large lots, which they have. Also, the residents on all four sides of the parcel in question spoke. Residents to the east, the property owned directly to the east, directly to the west, across the street, and several property owners from the subdivision to the north spoke opposing this, and were unanimous in their opposition. And third, the ones that did speak of the comprehensive plan spoke in favor of it, supporting the comprehensive plan, calling for 30,000 square foot minimum large lots. So it was interesting to see how the residents came together and opposed this, and how they all were consistent, unanimous in their opposition. So I just want to make the other board members aware of that, and it was refreshing to see how they all were in agreement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? 8H, other consideration for announcement, deliberation, or discussion only. No official action will be taken.
Got nothing.
Anything? The only comment I would have is, as I drive around through the village, a lot of people have spent a lot of time and effort in decorating their landscaping in their houses in the Christmas spirit. And I would just recommend to the residents, drive around and take advantage of it. And in my opinion, without a doubt, the area from 8700 South to 8900 South on County Line Road has got to be one of the best and condensed areas around. Again, There's a lot of area to take your time, drive through. I think you'll enjoy it. Anything else? Resident comments. Wait.
Wait, 1 second. I was at that meeting. I was at the meeting for the extension. You were right behind me. And everybody agreed with that. But the school system, the problem you have with that, it's federal. No matter what you do with the board, you can't solve it. Anything's going on here, you can't solve it. Why? I ran for mayor against Mickey 4 years ago, and Mickey said he was going to solve the problem in certain areas in this community up south of 87th Street. He was a liar. And I told him he was a liar, because I was running against him. And I did my due diligence. Putting the board together to run something for the school district is not going to help you now. It's too late. You have to deal with 10 years of a problem before it's going to get solved. Tell me I'm wrong.
Well, we're giving the residents an opportunity.
Residents can't make the decision. It's a federal problem. Federal, not state. Federal. Your congressmen, your senators have to solve this problem. You can't solve it. You put a community together. You cannot solve it. You have to deal with 10 years. There's a way to do this. I think, I was called well, I mean, I don't want to go there. I really don't want to go there. I think every child has a right to have a good education. I don't care what their nationality is. I think that's absolutely right. Because I think there could be great people in every nationality that can help everyone. But it should be done correctly. And you don't hurt communities while you do it. And you don't move things and bring problems that don't need to be there. But you're not going to solve the problem by forming a group now to talk about it, because you can't solve it. Trust me, my son left this community because of this. I'm very disappointed about it. I've lived here for over 45 years. I love Burr Ridge. I will not leave Burr Ridge. It's a very valuable community of me. I think everybody here has everything they can. But unfortunately, people don't pay attention to what's going on. It's very important. Very, very, very important.
I think one thing, I think the committee can at least try. I don't disagree with you.
That's bullshit.
I don't that's enough, you already had your call.
But no, wait, you commented to me. I have a right to return. Don't give me that. Don't ever do it. Don't return to me.
What do you have to say?
You're by the bridge. You're working on boats on a gate vessel, allow that whole goddamn thing to happen down here. Do not talk about it. Do not deal with it. That's a very bad community. The center should have been in the middle of that the shopping center. So 25% of that shopping center has never been rented, never been leased. I'm a businessman. I own 4 companies. I know how to run a business. Don't tell me what you're doing. You said it's done wrong. Nobody paid attention to what was going on because they had a vision of something else. But nobody paid attention to the basics of the people who live in this community. Don't go there. Want to start this game? We're not going to win. Merry Christmas.
Anybody else?
Real quick, I'm very hopeful that when you look at your strategic goals, I'm very hopeful that when you look at your strategic goals, that minimally you have something in there that says you're going to monitor the police pension fund liability. Minimally monitor. I mean, it'd be great if I'd say we make some progress on minimizing it, but minimally, if you can at least monitor it, which means in your 5-year plan that you have, you really want to have in there, okay, here's how the liabilities are going also. And you'll see if they're growing and if there's a concern, and then you'll have some data to make some good decisions by. By not putting it in there, it just throws it under the carpet. Thank you.
Anybody else? Reports and communication from village officials? Yes?
A question? Mr. Pricey, can you give us an update, please, on the emergency stormwater sewer repairs along County Line Road that we approved funding for earlier today?
Okay. DuPage County was called in, as we talked about in the Stormwater Committee in November. DuPage County was called in and brought in some crews, made an emergency repair to a collapsed corrugated metal pipe sewer that was quite old and quite deep. There was a temporary repair made with a piece of plastic pipe just to kind of continue a route. We believe that had kind of alleviated things for the time being. It seems to have slowed, as we know of the condition of this pipe. There was just pockmarked and potholed all over the place. It could have filled up again. It seems to have slowed a little bit, but it seems to have stabilized. So we hope that'll get us through the winter. In the springtime, we'll be talking about engineering services and a construction contract that will reinstate the flow from this old 12-inch pipe in some sort of capacity somewhere.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you.
Anything else? Non-resident comments? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Call.
Trustee Scalpa?
Yes.
Trustee Matal?
Yes.
Trustee Baveza?
Yes.
Trustee Model?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
5-0.
Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
No, after